All right, so today we are going to be doing the inventory. I'm actually going to be taking you through the process of this inventory. And so the purpose of the inventory is to discover inside of us what's blocking us from this power. If you want to stay sober and you can't stay sober, you want to stay sober, you need to stay sober, but I can't stay sober. You get drunk about every 6 months, every 3 months, every 2 months, and it's just not working. And you want to stay sober. Well, what's stopping you from staying sober? What's stopping you from finding this power that you need? It's the stuff in your mind. It's how you think. Right? If you're anything like me, my mind would have killed my body years ago, but it needs it for transportation. And so my mind has this way of rationalizing itself into a lot of different things that I know aren't good. Right? So the main problem I have is in my mind. It's how I think and how I perceive the world. Not necessarily how the world perceives me, but how I perceive the world. And my perception of the world keeps me angry. It keeps me in self-pity, right? And it keeps me alone. Anybody here like that?
Yeah. How about if you still just want to get high?
Well, but again, this thing only works if you want to stop. Go to page 34. This thing only works if you honestly want to stop. If you have a lurking notion that somehow, someday you'll be immune to alcohol, or that you can control and enjoy your drinking, or that you're going to drink. Okay, so these are the conditions when I'm going to drink. My mother dies, right? When something bad happens to my kids, So we put conditions on. Sometimes people put conditions on when they're going to drink, and so that's a lurking notion. And so when they have that kind of thought, this stuff will never work. See, these steps in this thing is like a last-ditch effort. It's not something that is going to change your mind about drinking. Right? Either you want to stop or you don't. Right? Period. And if you want to stop and you keep drinking against your will, right, and you don't know what else to do, then this will work every single time. But if you really are not convinced you need to stop, it doesn't matter how many times you do these things, it's not going to work. It is a mindset. If you want to stop, if you truly want to stop, then what's blocking you, what's making that impossible for you to stop? What is causing that? If you want to stop and I can't stop and I need to stop, why is that? Something is blocking you. It's your way of thinking. And page 34, second paragraph. Right? For those who are unable to drink moderately. Anybody here able to drink moderately? Right? For those who are unable to drink moderately. So you are unable to drink moderately. The question is how to stop altogether. Not one day at a time. It's stop altogether. Right? I mean, okay, stop means stopped. If a gorilla is beating the shit out of you, right, you want it to be one day at a time? Right? Or you want him to stop? Right? I mean, seriously, if a gorilla is beating the shit out of you, you say, oh, we'll just stop for today. So is the gorilla beating the shit out of you. Right? So stop means stopped. And it says, for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. What does the next line say? So this is assuming that you want to stop. If you don't want to stop, this is not going to work. Right? Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis. So whether you can just quit because you snap your fingers and say you want to quit, right? And I'm just going to think through the drink. I'm going to play the tape all the way through. I'm going to stay away from people, places, and things. I'm not going to go around those guys. So whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent which you've already lost the power to choose whether you're going to drink or not. And so how many times have you been in a sober living, in a recovery home, in a setting to where it's absolutely vital that you not drink and you got drunk? How many times has that happened? How many times has someone said, one more time and you're unemployed? One more time and I'm leaving you. One more time and I'm throwing you out of here. How many times has that happened? And you got drunk.
Drinking before.
Well, but again, if given sufficient reason, can you stop and stay stopped? And so what does your history prove? Whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depend upon the extent which he's already lost the power to choose whether he'll drink or not. So have you lost the power to choose whether you're going to drink or not? See, that's what you have to process deep down, right in your sphincter tightening soul. Right? Real deep down in there. Not up here. Not up here. But deep down in here, you got to know. You got to know with every being that the time is going to come when I'm going to drink. And don't want that to happen. So at that moment, what's stopping you from finding that power? Page 55. Deep down inside every man, woman, and child is this fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, and by works of other things, but in some form or another it's there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves, and a miraculous demonstration of that power in human lives as old as man himself. So deep down within me is this power I need, but my mind won't shut the hell up. My mind is spinning out of control. Right? My mind is spinning out of control. And so deep down inside of me is this fundamental idea of God, but this needs to shut up. So the purpose of the inventory is to get this to shut up. Right? How many times in your life recently has this been shut the fuck up? Well, people who've taken the steps and know how to do this, Ruth, Ray, Molly, right? People who are actually doing this, their mind shuts the fuck up sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what this is all about, is getting the mind to shut the fuck up. It's getting that mind calm. I had a friend of mine look at me the other day and says, is there something wrong with you? Well, no, because you just seem different. You just seem off. And I said, well, I'm retired and I really got no worries anymore. Right? So what do I got to worry about? My work career is over. Right? I don't have to worry about going to work or finding a job or pleasing a boss. Right? So is it possible what you're seeing is me being calm for the first time in my life? And it's different? Is that possible? Right? And that's the truth. And so the purpose of this, because I've done these inventories so many times in my life, that it's finally sinking in. So bottom of page 55. Now this is the disclaimer, right? This is the disclaimer of these 100 people. It says we can only clear the ground a bit. If our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come. So this is the paragraph where these 100 people are saying, we're done explaining this shit to you. We're done, right? We've explained the doctor's opinion about the allergy, and whether you have that or not, it's up to you, right? Do you have that? We've explained the obsession. We've explained the four different types of alcoholics. We've explained 3 different types of drinkers. Right? So we've explained all this stuff to you. You have this knowledge. You have this knowledge. So we're done explaining shit to you. Now it's time to shit or get off the pot. That's really what they're saying. Right? We can only clear the ground a bit. If our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. So they're asking you to do two things here. If their testimony has convinced you to think honestly, which means about your drinking, right? And search diligently to find this power, to find this friend, then if you do those things, then you can join us on this broad highway. Right? With this mind of consideration, this open-mindedness, this wanting to have a personality change. You can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. So what does cannot fail mean? It works every time people do it. Right? It works without your consent. What we're about to start into, right, with these 30 some odd pages, and that's all it is. Right, from page 64 to 40 some odd pages, right, to 64 to 104. Right, if you do those 40 some odd pages, then it happens without your consent, right? Yeah, you're changed without your approval. You don't think about drinking. You don't not think about drinking. The problem will be removed, right? If you follow along with these directions. And the very first one is inventory. So go to page 60, please. Many of us exclaim, what an order, I can't go through with it, don't be discouraged. Right? So this is not, the bar's set pretty low here, okay? Right, the bar's set pretty low. Most of the time, where you can crawl over it on your hands and knees. Right, that's how high the bar's set here. Right? So many of us claim, what an order, I can't go through with it, don't be discouraged. No one among us can maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. So this is not about perfection. Right? This is about just doing it. Right? There's a price of admission for a personality change. It's called grasping and developing a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. Grasping and developing. It's like you're never going to get this right the first time. Right? Nobody has ever done it right the very first time. Right? So what we're getting ready to read are a description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. Right? That I'm alcoholic and can't manage my own life. That's pretty clear. Right? At least in my case. That probably no human power could relieve my alcoholism. No human power can relieve the way I think. No human power can alter how I think and make it stick. Right? Sometimes she can, sometimes the police department can. If it weren't for physics and law enforcement, I'd be unstoppable. Right? That's the bottom line. If it weren't for physics and law enforcement, I would be unstoppable. Right? So at some point, law enforcement can kind of slow me down. Physics can kind of slow me down, right? Because I'm getting older, right? And humanity in the sheriff's department sometimes can slow me down. Sometimes, but see as God could and would if he were sought. What does the word sought mean?
Looked after, sought.
Not found. Sometimes in meetings now you'll hear this chant, and I don't normally like the chants, but it says if God could and would if he were sought, not fought. Sought, not fought. Right? So that's beautiful. Right? And so the power here is in the seeking, is in the, not in the finding, but in the seeking. In a spiritual journey is being willing to consider other things. Is it possible that what I know about God is the biggest obstacle I have to finding out about God? Is it possible that what I think about alcoholism is the biggest obstacle I have to learning about alcoholism? Well, see, that's seeking. That's, keeping an open mind means that I just ask questions. Make sense? Right? That's where the growth is. is asking questions, not coming in with answers, and not being so stuck in self that I'm married to a particular version of God. All right. I mean, consider what I just said. Right. The journey is not being married to there isn't a God, or not being married to there is a God, and this is what it looks like. It's a mind of consideration. Every ounce of growth is a mind of consideration. And we go in asking questions, not answers. Right? There's no way there could be any growth. And what you're going to find out in this inventory we're going to start today is there's no growth if I go into this thing knowing the answers. Right? So then it says, being convinced, we're now at step 3, which we decided to turn our will and our life of care of God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? So now it goes on to tell what the first requirement is. So here we're going into step 3, and this is the first requirement. Right, so go to page 63. So this is where the inventory begins. Right, God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thy will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, they may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, and victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and the way of life. May I do Thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last utterly abandon ourselves to Him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person such as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. So, in this third step, there is no amen. But we're asking this God, right, to relieve us of the bondage of self, right, I offer myself to Thee to build with me. So if you're offering yourself to God to build, that means there's something wrong. There's some construction that needs to happen, or else you wouldn't be doing this. Right? There's some growth that needs to happen, or they wouldn't use the word build with me. So something needs to be constructed. Something needs to happen. Okay? So on the bottom of that page, well, really with this, right, what you're agreeing to, it says we thought well before taking this step, making sure we're ready. Right? So what you're agreeing to is you're agreeing to doing the inventory, you're agreeing to doing the confession, and you're agreeing to making your amends. That's what you are agreeing to according to this, and according to the book. So if you don't want to do this, then don't waste your time and don't waste our time. If you're not convinced that something needs to change, if you're not powerless, if you're not seeking a power, then don't do this. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time, because it's not going to work. And you'll be one of the ones saying, well, A doesn't work for me. It's because you didn't do it. Right? You didn't do it. So, right, well, it's still you didn't do it, right? Right, because what you're agreeing to here in this third step is to complete this work. And how many times have you attempted to complete this work and just stop? You know, you do the inventory, you do some of the confession, and you'll make 1 or 2 of your amends, and you just stop. That's not what you agreed to. Right? And so no wonder you can't stay sober, because you're not fulfilling your agreement. So next we launched a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little or permanent effect. So this is going to have permanent effect, unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves that would have been blocking us. So we face these things in the inventory, we confess them in the 5th step, and we get rid of them in the 9th step. To face and be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. So therefore we started upon a personal inventory. This is the very first spiritual principle. Any business that doesn't take regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It's an effort to discover the truth about stock and trade. So we get to learn about ourselves, and that's not fun sometimes. That is just not fun. So, go down to the next paragraph. It says, resentment is the number one offender. Right? It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stems all form of spiritual disease. So we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we're angry. So on your piece of paper right there, right, you guys see the 3 columns? Right, so just write down 2 people right on your that you're resentful at. Okay? And why are you resentful at them? It should be easy to do because we got a bunch of newcomers in here. If not, just make up shit. I mean, just make up a fantasy resentment so I can show you how to do this. Anybody here resentful at Mighty Mouse?
Yeah, you know what? He does lines.
Yeah. Okay. How about Underdog? Or Molly? Anybody? Or not this Molly, but Underdog's girlfriend. I mean, she's really a passive little bitch. Right, so write something down. Make shit up or something.
Olive. What? Olive oil?
All right. And so, why are you resentful at this person, right? Just a sentence, a couple words.
Sometimes you just don't like them.
Okay, write that down.
You don't like them.
And so write down about 2 or 3 if you can. Just really quick. I don't worry about effects, Maya, okay? I mean, if you could get to that part, get to that part. How you doing back there, Rob? You doing? Okay. All right. Everybody's hard at work doing their inventory. Kind of putting these names down there. You got some names down, Dan?
Jason's on my list.
I hope so. That's good.
Well, I mean, if you live here, I should be on most of your list.
Why would that?
I mean, I should. I mean, that's just natural because, yeah. Well, I know I'm on her list, and I know I'm on his list, or should be on his list. Definitely should be on Jason's list,
You're all over it. You're all over
You are the list.
right?
it. You are?
Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
You are it.
You know, we used to say at the book study.
You are the list.
So it just says Paul on it.
Oh, we used to say at the book study at Pathfinders is that if the guys were not bitching about me, the next morning, a morning meditation, I didn't do my job right. Right? I could do the book study on Tuesday night, and on Wednesday morning, if I wasn't part of the topic, I did not do my job right. Those of you at Pathfinders remember that stuff.
Yes.
All right.
Don't.
All right, so bottom of page 65. It says, we went back through our lives, nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. We're finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was the world and its people were often quite wrong. Is that true? To conclude that others are wrong was as far as most of us ever got. Oh boy, I like that part. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stay sore. Sometimes it was remorse and we're sore to self, but the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win, our moments of triumph were short-lived. So it's plain to see that life, which includes deep resentments, leads only to futility and unhappiness. Is that right, Mark?
Sorry, I was.
To conclude, to permit these, we squander hours that might have been worthwhile.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay?
100%.
But for the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment, of rethinking, is infinitely grave. We found it is fatal. For harboring these feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit, the insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. So anybody in this room like that? Right, you get a bit of periods of sobriety together, even if you're sober. There's no happiness in your life. There's no happy thoughts, right? Because all you're doing is just dwelling on what they did to you, right? For in harboring these feelings, you're shutting yourself off in the sunlight of the Spirit, which means there's no fucking way you could be happy. You can't even pretend to be happy. And you'll wind up miserable and alone for how long in your life now? And you can fix this, but for some reason your pride says, I don't want to do this. Your pride is keeping you alone and keeping you miserable. This bondage of self, if you were to say bondage of self and pride are the same fucking thing. It's the same thing. The bondage of self.
About fear.
Well, fear, okay. Yeah, fear is another category,
Okay.
right? But I mean, because, for us to be angry like this all the time and just want to take it out on somebody, right? Sometimes, Andra and I have the same type of personality, is that I just want to be mad at somebody. I just want to go blow you the fuck up. For no reason at all. Right? You don't do anything to me. Sometimes people do things to me. Right? But for the most part, I'm looking for what's wrong with you. Anybody here like that?
Paul, is that because you're not comfortable with yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then that's what this will solve. For in harboring these feelings, I shut myself off from the sunlight of the Spirit, the insanity of alcohol returns, and I drink again. And so what is the remedy for this obsession?
I have a question.
Okay?
But what if the feeling is literally justified because you weren't asking for it or anything?
It doesn't matter.
You know what I mean?
I
Of course
mean-
you're going to feel some kind of internal threat.
Well, yeah, but it's blocking you from feeling good. It's
Well, of
blocking you
course.
from harmony, right? So it really has it's really worthless. It's really going to kill you, and then when you're dead, it doesn't matter, right? Or when you're drinking,
But that's just harboring it. Say months go by and you're still holding on to it. I'm just talking
But-
about like right then and
but
there.
again, we don't have that luxury. I mean, alcoholics, because I have no idea what's going to spark me at any particular moment to go drinking.
Right.
I have no idea. Just like I have no idea how I've been sober for over 10,000 days. I got no fucking idea. It's mind-boggling. It truly is given who I am. Right? I know Mark feels the same way. 8, 9 months, 10 months sober now. And how the fuck did you do that as angry as you are all the time? Right? There's got to be a certain grace there. But at some point, I get tired of being fucking miserable. And so that's what this inventory is about. So when I harbor these feelings, I shut myself off from the sunlight of the Spirit. I don't want to shut myself off from the sunlight of the Spirit. Right? I want to be happy. But I can't be happy and justified and right at the same time. I would rather be happy than be right. That's why the older I get and the more sobriety I get and the more spiritually fit I become, I love being wrong. Right? You guys have heard me say that. Mm-hmm. Right? The biggest joy in my life is when I'm wrong. When I'm wrong. Because my first inclination, my first instinct is to say, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. Is to look for negative shit over and over again. Right? And I love to be wrong. And so it says, this is our course. Let's say, if we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm are not for us. They may be the dubious luxuries of normal men, but for the alcoholic, these things are poison. So the grouch and the brainstorm, I can get angry. I have bursts of anger all the time. I yelled at Jason yesterday, right? Yeah, I mean, I yelled at him. I was angry, right? But that's not a resentment, right? It's just a burst of emotion. It's a burst of God-given emotion. There's nothing that I'm going to rethink or replay in my mind. So there's a difference between being angry.
How's my dog?
So there's a difference between being angry and having a resentment. Yeah,
But it's all right to be angry.
it's a God-given emotion.
Yeah.
Can you stop that?
No.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can get angry, but you don't want, as you say, you don't want to have collateral damage.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have you
So
don't
you
have
don't
to
have to act out.
Right. Yeah. So it's a God-given emotion, just like joy is, just like love is, just like sadness, right? Just like sorrow, right? Self-pity sometimes a God-given emotion, right? But we can't live in those things.
No.
We can't live in anger. We can't live in self-pity, right? We can't live, right? We like to live in joy, but that doesn't happen all the time, right? You guys understand this?
Yeah.
They're just God-given emotions. It's going to happen until we have a personality change, that's going to allow us not to be dominated by those things. At first, you guys are dominated by it, right? How many people here, and you're going to love this one, right? How many people here get offended when somebody says, "Are you drinking today?"
Yes.
Yeah, so most people here get offended when you say, "What do you mean? What do you mean? No, I'm sober, goddammit." Yeah, and you get all butthurt because somebody says, "Are you drinking today?" Right? Why would we?
I used to feel guilty.
Not here in
You're
the
right.
house.
All right, but why? But why would you get offended if somebody is
That's
somebody?
what you do.
Yeah, right, because that's what you do. That's
They
what
know
their
you.
experience with you,
Yeah.
right? It's what they know about you,
Yeah.
and you get all butthurt because they don't believe you because you're sober.
I'm at some living house.
And so what do you do with that information? You kind of run it around in your head. You run it around in your head. You run it around in your head. And next thing you know, you get drunk.
You show them.
You say, "I'll show you."
So you, yeah, get high.
So the grouch and the brainstorm may be the dubious luxuries of normal men, but for the alcoholic, these things are poison. So we turn back to the list, for it held the key to our future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. Began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoings of others, fancied or real, had the power to actually kill. So people's actions, and you just keep obsessing on those, take up your mind, shut you off from the sunlight of the Spirit, squander hours that might have been worthwhile, and you permit this to happen. So this thing called a